Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. In a time when a king tried to crush a continent, one man in Williamsburg dared to rise up. And with his own words, he shook the empire to its core. Stay with me, and I'm going to tell you the powerful story of one man who defied an entire nation. It was May of 1774. The port of Boston had just been closed by the British Parliament in an act of punishment against the colonists for the Boston Tea Party. Now, British warships patrolled the harbor there, and merchants were ruined because they had no products to sell. That meant families would go hungry. And here in Williamsburg, the capital of Virginia, the news strikes like a thunderbolt. Some say Boston deserves what it gets. Others fear open rebellion. But one man, Patrick Henry, sees something deeper. He sees injustice, he sees tyranny, and he sees an opportunity to awaken a sleeping colony. This is the day that Patrick Henry defied a royal governor, defied a complacent colony, and in many ways defied the whole British Empire. The House of Burgesses assembled inside this building right here. It is Virginia's oldest lawmaking body. The men took their seats quietly. Some whispered in anxious tones, but when Patrick Henry rose, all whispering stopped. He spoke with a fire no one could ignore. He declared that Britain's attack on Boston was an attack on every colony, and he warned that if tyranny succeeded in New England, then the South would be the very next place. The cause of Boston, he thundered, is the cause of America. His words electrified the chamber. For the first time, the idea of a united American resistance to British control was publicly declared here in Virginia. Now, the royal governor, Lord Dunmore, fiercely loyal to the British crown, he was outraged. He stormed into this building, the Capitol, and by royal authority dissolved the assembly completely. The Burgesses were dismissed, their power stripped away in a moment of time, and their voices were silenced. The moment Lord Dunmore walked out, the Burgesses stood to their feet, gathered their belongings, took all of their papers, and filed out of the building, not in defeat, but with resolve. The Burgesses walked together down Duke of Gloucester Street, the same street that we have walked down today. Citizens watched from taverns and shops as these leaders, stripped of their authority, but they marched with purpose into the Raleigh Tavern. Here in the Apollo Room, outside the British governor's reach, they reassembled themselves. Patrick Henry, Thomas Jefferson, Richard Henry Lee, and others formed what became known as the First Intercolonial Committee of Correspondence. This was one of the earliest organized acts of American unity. A shadow government, you might say. A protest movement. And it was the first whisper of what would become the Continental Congress. Patrick Henry had turned dissolution into revolution. It would have been easier for Patrick Henry to sit quietly, to stay within the law, to avoid angering the British governor, to maintain his privileged position, but he chose conviction over comfort. He chose truth over safety, and in doing so, he set an example for generations to come. His stand in 1774 prepared the way for his even more famous cry the following year, "Give me liberty or give me death." You see, Patrick Henry understood a principle rooted deeply in Scripture. In Acts chapter 5, verse 29, Peter boldly proclaimed, "We ought to obey God rather than men." That day in Williamsburg, Patrick Henry obeyed conscience, truth, and the God-given principles of justice. He stood when others hesitated. He spoke when others were silent. He resisted tyranny when resistance was dangerous. And God used that courage to push America closer to independence. So let this story remind us, when truth is threatened, silence is not an option, and faith must be lived out, even when the cost is high. Patrick Henry's defiance did not begin with his famous words, "Give me liberty or give me death" speech in 1775. It began here in Williamsburg, the year before, when he stood up for Boston. He stood for justice, and he stood against a royal governor. May we always have the courage to stand for what is right, even when the world tells us to just sit down and be silent.